Tales of the Caballos by William H. White. Part 2, Chapter 6, Doc Perrick. If you're liking these videos, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and set up proper notifications. Thank you. Everyone who comes to the Caballo Mountains leaves an inevitable mark of historical significance, and Doc Perrick was one of the more memorable ones. He wandered the mountains during the 60s and 70s, and although he never found anything of value, he is credited with destroying countless signs left by the Jesuits, the Spanish, the Aztecs, and the Apaches. Doc carried a backpack filled with explosives, which he used on a daily basis. He blasted signs off rocks, and he blasted rocks to see what lay beneath, and just about everything you can imagine. If Doc Perrick didn't understand something, he made certain that no one in the future would be able to either. Doc Perrick destroyed everything he didn't understand, which was a lot. The story is told that Perrick was shot by a man named Pierce over some dispute. The same Pierce that Pierce's cave was named after. The wound was not life-threatening. However, the settlement that came afterwards was destructive and mean. Doc Perrick was granted permission to search the Pierce's cave, and he is generally regarded as the one who permanently damaged this cave. Doc blasted and probed until the cave itself was a hazard to visit. It is now filled with vertical shafts and partially caved-in tunnels leading nowhere. One visit is usually enough to convince one to avoid this cave forever. It is abuse like this that has caused millions of acres of public land to be withdrawn from public entry. For those interested, the cave is easily seen from I-25 and is located at the base of the vertical limestone cliffs between Burbank and Cable Canyons. Doc Perrick was not a nice man, and like many treasure hunters, he solicited money from the investors to fund his projects. Doc's favorite method was to show potential investors some gold nuggets, then try to convince them that this is what they could expect if they invested with him. His target of choice was senior citizens. As a group, they usually had money and usually a lot of time on their hands. Doc sold adventure and excitement, and he frequently invited his investors on outings. This was simply too hard to resist for many bored, retired people. When you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and for Doc Perrick, this was especially true. Justice was finally served when Doc Perrick was found dead in his hotel room in Flagstaff, Arizona. He died of multiple stab wounds. Doc had over $20,000 in possessions at the time of his death, and it was not taken. Robbery was certainly not the motive. Personally, I believe the motive was revenge for some of the money taken through the years from unexpecting investors. To my knowledge, the case was never solved. The indiscriminate blasting and digging on public lands ended in 1978 when the Bureau of Land Management began requiring permits for this activity. This seemed to be the only thing that could stop Doc Perrick from destroying the Caballo Mountains. He has always been referred to as Doc, but I have no information of what he was a doctor of, if indeed this was true. Doc could even have been his nickname. His personal conduct certainly was not becoming of a doctor of anything. The end. this is the end of part 2, the Depression era. Next up, part 3, chapter 1, Wells Hover Ride.